Sitting down with Maniac Cop 2 again. I really like the films of William Lustig, and I assume that perhaps Maniac Cop 2 is the most liked of them, and I can see why. I will say, I think, though I haven't seen it in some time, I liked the first film more due to the horror vibe, the atmosphere of evil permeating through it. It feels like Maniac Cop 2 just wanted to up the ante on the violence and expand the world of the first film, which I assume is why many felt it superior to the first one. It's a fairly likable affair, quite grisly, borderline sadistic at times, although I find it pretty easy to enjoy just as a vehicle for pure splatter. Nice seeing Ivanova from Babylon 5 in a film, Claudia Christian, who also appears in the 1989 classic Bash Arena, and generally just interesting to see a lower budgeted film or filmmaker that had a higher budgeted sequel, at least according to the IMDb information, and what the director does with it. For Shameless Trash, Maniac Cop 2 is a pretty impassioned piece and is really determined to be what it is in the most visceral, cinematic, and just unrelenting ways possible. I can see why many critics dismissed this as trash. For most of them, the inclusion of violent gore in any film was an immediate negative review. They felt that the cinema ought to adhere to their own ideas of refinement. Although I think that graphic violence is a valid form of displaying morbidly intriguing human ugliness on screen, and at least from a compositional filmmaking perspective, the achievement of bloody gore via the old practical effects was a magnificent art in and of itself. I'm not suggesting that CGI blood is a complete no-go zone or can't be interesting inherently, although it can enable films to cut corners more and they can seem far less interesting and compelling, watchable, than the older practical effects achieved gore pictures, in my own opinion. Feel free to let me know your own thoughts on Maniac Cop 2 or the first film or Lustig's works in general. It is apparent that these films, or to some degree possibly the whole trilogy, are vague cult favourites and have their circle of fans. I also enjoy them to a certain point. As far as shameless horror or gore pictures are concerned, you can do a whole lot worse than either Maniac Cop films. Never saw the third, might get around to that one someday.